morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. We are back on a Monday morning with our usual duo. We were just hanging out last night, actually, recording some content for Patreon. Bitush, what is happening?
Not much. It's looking to be like a really nice day outside today, so maybe we'll be able to get some breath of fresh air after the weekend because it definitely needs some.
Yeah, no shit. Yesterday was beautiful afterwards, actually. The morning, not so much. It's Monday morning. Grumpy is grumpier than normal, like higher grumpiness levels after yesterday. And it sucks because normally, and we were in the pre-match together, when we were talking about it, we were like, hey, a draw is not bad. But I think it's just I don't know if any of us expected to like literally outplay them, especially in the second half. And then the things we missed, and obviously the penalties taken away. Definitely one. The other one you can probably debate a bit more. I argue that both of them, middle of the pitch, get called. Yeah. But so, how are you feeling like afterwards?
I think now waking up, like I feel much better. Obviously, I think the toughest part is knowing that sometimes there's certain calls that go our way, and then you'll go online and what have you, and you'll look at different pundits or different YouTube personalities or different comments of different forums or whatever, and you'll see that usually the person that's complaining is a fan of the team that didn't get the call.
Yeah.
In one of these cases, in the cleat to the chest of McAllister case, all you saw was fans of all teams, pundits of everything saying, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say at this point, because it's difficult to look at it and not think that if, just like Klopp said, if it was anywhere else on the pitch, I mean, it's called 99 out of
any other game. It's called too.
What's that?
Any other game, I think it's called. Like It's not because it was like in the box and it's like not too soft or something like that. I feel like Oliver didn't want to, and then VAR didn't want to be the ones that decide the title winner, which they did. They are in a different kind of way by doing all these.
They always are. And I always will go back to the point of, if VAR is here to assist, then the very least they could do is just say, hey, look, Oliver, Michael, Mike, mate, pal, good old buddy, we think you should go to the monitor and just have another look. We feel like there's some contact there. We want you to make the call. It's your match. Just take a look. That's all. And that's what VAR was supposed to be. It's supposed to assist, right? It's in the name. It's supposed to assist. So what's the point of not actually giving the ref a chance to take a look? Because if the thing is being worried about overturning the call, then have him look at the monitor and let him make the call then, if you don't want to make him look bad. But just the fact of, like, I don't know, Mike Dean on Sky Sports, literally in real time, looking at it going, oh yeah, I think Doku's in trouble here. And then VAR saying no penalty, and him going, oh yeah, good decision. Like that, in 10 seconds, you can see how all of that operates, and it's ridiculous.
And that's the thing. I think it is. That's what I hate about it, is the fact that it's all about covering the ass, making sure, like, we don't get involved in anything, but you're more involved by trying not to be involved. Just make the freaking call. And I agree with the calling him over thing, but I think they have set a bad precedent over there where when you're called, you're probably overturning. Like the moment somebody is called, we're like, sweet, it's changing or whatever is what we feel. So this is, I think that would be given if it happened on the 75th. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I think I almost feel like it didn't even get looked at long enough.
No, they take 12 minutes to see if a shoulder is just slightly offside, but they took 12 seconds to see, oh yeah, no, he's fine. I think the other part that I want to talk about is the actual the definition of the natural coming together, or what was it? It was unavoidable coming together, something like that. You can't use that definition if you're not using it the same way everywhere else.
Yes.
Think back to Curtis's red. The natural coming together of the foot going off of the ball into a player's shin, that is an unavoidable coming together. You know, John McGinn running through the legs of whoever, I think it was Adogi yesterday. That's not an unavoidable collision like John McGinn,
Yeah.
right? That is a red, but it doesn't make sense. The verbiage doesn't make sense. The consistency doesn't make sense, and we're gonna keep sitting here for the next 45 million fucking years, always talking about consistency until it becomes consistent.
I think here's the thing, that verbiage, I think it's just a way of them to, like, what can we say? Like, let's go with it's almost like, like standard issue things that we say kind of stuff. Not enough contact is my personal favorites. Not enough contact. So there's contact, there's a foul, but it's just not enough. Like, what is enough? Like, why are we creating these gray areas that are like, it's not enough? Like, but it was enough. It was in midfield. I mean, those are given. And that's what, I don't know. I'm in the same place where I was, sadly, with the Spurs game. I'll be honest, I did not get as much of a feel like this in the Arsenal game. With the blown like penalty call and stuff like that. I did not get this mad, or at least it didn't carry over to the next day when I woke up and I was like, yeah, I mean, screwed again is what, and I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like everybody else who sees it, like I always, like my brother is my barometer for some stuff like this usually, because he's a United fan and he's going to do anything and everything possible, and say anything and anything possible against Liverpool. Even he's like, how the hell is that not a penalty? Like, that makes no sense. And yeah, I mean, I think in the name of football, regardless of who you're rooting for, you got to be like, what the hell is going on? But I think it doesn't hurt as much, and it's a lot easier to move on when it's not your team.
Yeah, and I mean, and obviously when you still get a point out of it, right? If it was 1-0, I also, maybe here's the thing, if it was 1-0 City at that point, maybe he gives it a maybe Oliver makes the call on the field and then has VAR check it, because this could have been one of those situations where if he called it on the field, it wasn't going to be overturned kind of deal. And I think that's what was so frustrating, is I think whatever he called was going to be the end all be all in that scenario there, because of the situation of the match itself. It just, yeah, I think if that never happened, I think most of us would be here not so upset the next day, just a little peeved going, man, we could have really taken 3 points out of that one, but it just didn't fall our way. That's fine. But the ending, and I think you alluded to it yesterday on Discord, is that the last 30 seconds is what really just bitters the mood on the entire game. Because not only should you have a chance to win it, but you had it taken away.
Yeah, it just does not feel right. That's the problem. And I think a win, I mean, you win this game, you're up, and you're kind of looking down on these two as they take each other on, would have been huge. But having said that, I think seeing how we played, and let's face it, I mean, they had their chances. Obviously, Doko hits the post and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the Ryan says, there you are. I don't know what the issue was. Somehow the Facebook live feed wasn't working very well. I don't know why. But it looks like it's working now because we have all the Facebook people joining us as listeners. So, but this is why you should head on to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and there you go. No problems. Mind you, we had the same issue a couple of months ago with YouTube, but that's different. So nobody needs to know that. Just go over to YouTube.
Those moments, we have YouTube go over to Facebook, make sure that they're on there as well.
Exactly.
And you need to be on everything, guys.
Yeah, if you're not getting it on like one regular social media and it's 9:00 Central on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, there's something freaking going on. So I gotta investigate and find that somewhere. But yeah, I think that was like the thing that ticks me off the most, is it would have been huge. But having seen how we played, I walked away a lot more optimistic about what's to come. Moving forward, I have like more questions in terms of, you watched the game yesterday, and I know we always talk about the ideal midfield and in form, like Soboslai, has to be there and stuff like that. But man, I mean, it's hard to look past like what Elliott did yesterday, especially off the ball, like all the stuff, all the running, all the pressing. They all did really, and I think that was another thing. Diaz is getting a lot of crap, and maybe rightfully so. He should do better, but I don't think Mo gets as much crap when if he misses those. And I know we always talked about some earned credit and stuff like that because
That's what it comes
what
to.
Diaz did in terms of efforts, I think should be enough to
Oh
forgive
yeah,
what he missed.
the 81st minute run where he takes the ball 70 yards past Walker and Rodri, like that moment alone, when everyone's legs are dying and he's still giving it his very last bit. He did more running in the last 10 minutes than Cody Gakpo did the entire time he came on when he
Yeah,
subbed on. I think and that's what I always go back to is, and what you always go back to, what we talk about is just the effort being there. And it just looked like, unfortunately, that Gakpo was so uninterested. Maybe it made Diaz look even better in that sense, because he just didn't stop. And he did get that corner at the very end as well because of the extra effort that he put in. So if that penalty was called, he would have been given even more credit for making that happen in the first place.
yeah,
I think the happiest person, if there's on the team, is probably Sobo, because if it wasn't for Diaz's couple missed opportunities, we'd look back on the header that Soboslai had
yep.
and think, man, I mean that sat right there
If
for
that's
the.
Nunez, that's probably on target. It felt like.
Oh, or if it's not, it's talked about all over the place. But
Yes.
Soboslai's kind of, it just went under the radar a bit, and we didn't talk about it. And him himself, I mean, he had an okay game. I think there were moments where it looked great, and we had this perfect midfield. And then there were moments where, like, man, I actually kind of really wish Curtis Jones was there, But and then you talked about Harvey then stepping back when Mo came on, and that opened up a lot. And Harvey, yeah, I mean, we still don't give him enough credit. I mean, I think all in all, I absolutely love this club. I think every player played their absolute heart out yesterday, aside from maybe Cody Gakpo a little bit. But even then, it was just great to watch how wonderful. I mean, second half especially. First half, was a bit nervy, but second half, I mean, man, that was, like Klopp was saying, one of the best halves against City he's ever seen.
I think it's just that was the thing. I was watching that second half more in awe and admiration and pride, kind of a thing. They're like,
Yeah.
man, like we are literally playing City off the pitch, and not a lot of teams in the world can say that, leave alone in England. And I was like, like, wow, this is pretty impressive, and we're the ones closer to the win. It's City, so they get a couple of chances on the other side, regardless of how poorly they're playing. But it's like that's feeling literally just I wish the game ended without those and we'd be like kind of like, oh man, if we took our chances kind of a deal.
Yep.
And that's where we'd leave it at. But then that pride and happiness and awe just went into just full-blown anger, and just like, god damn it, this is just ridiculous kind of an ordeal. But see, Gakpo just looks dead to the world. I don't know, Mecca saying he wrecks moving to us. He was on fire last season. I think so. Let me ask you this, because he does. Is it just the Dutch thing he's got going over here? Because if Van Dijk played up top, you would probably say the thing about Van Dijk, the way it almost looks effortless in what he does.
Yeah, I'm in the sense of effortless, but he has an impact. If Cody, it looks effortless, but he's not having an impact either, then there's that to be said.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Gakpo necessarily needs time away or anything like that, because I think up until about a month and a half ago, he was great. He was a great option, and I think at the very least, being when everyone's fit, our fifth, sixth option. That's a really good option to have at that number, and if he's in form, he could be considered one of the top three up top, which is fine for me. It's just the fact that I think recently, the last month and a half, because he's been struggling so hard to find that goal, that he's just trying so hard to make up for it, that everything's going wrong in that way, because he's too fixated on scoring rather than just doing what everything else that he does well. We've talked about, right? I mean, so I think maybe either seeing the ball go in the net, or I don't know, having some sort of great assist, something like that, to really get him back into it would be good. I think maybe a good Europa showing on Thursday would be great for his confidence. But up until a month and a half, man, a month and a half ago, everything was fine with him.
And that's the thing. I don't know if we're kind of giving him, because it's a bit different as a defender, right? He just looks, yes, he looks almost like uninterested, if that's, you know.
Mm.
But I don't know if that's just the way he carries himself. So he says Vidu looks effortless because he mentally beats opponents. No, I think it's just the way he carries himself. Like you look at Van Dijk and the way he moves around is, I mean, first of all, there's like a huge arrogance and like a confidence thing to it. So there's
Mm.
that, right? But aside from that, I feel like he's in control. He's still doing the things, and it's just like he's under calm as you like. I mean, that's why I think it's perfect. Like he's
Mm.
calm as you like. With Gakpo, I think it's different when somebody's doing that up top too, because unless you're just scoring worldies from here, from this corner, from that corner, and stuff like that, yes, it looks like there's no effort. But if you look off the ball, he's still doing the pressing. He's still doing all those things that you want him to do. I mean, I didn't see him not press when he came in.
See, I yesterday specifically, I felt like he was not triggering anything off the ball. I think that's.
Hmm.
I might have to rewatch the last. I mean, I don't think I want to, but if need be, could rewatch it to see what I was saying. It just didn't look like he was. It almost looked like he was just finding spaces to be in to look like he was pressing, but not necessarily really doing much for pressing. Kind of just make it
Yeah,
may just be around enough, but not really put in that extra step to really make a difference.
that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, it just almost feels a second off and stuff. And I don't know if he's a good player to come off the bench as well. You know, we talked about this in the past, right? Like
Yeah.
Jota, he can come in at any minute and it looks like he's been playing all along. He just like slots and he just does that. And Gakpo just look lost at times. And I don't know if that's partially on us more than on Gakpo because of all these injuries and stuff like that. We've used them all over the place. This is like, when we played Jones left wing was that last season or the season before? And we're like, he looks lost. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, because he's not a left winger. Like, so it's kind of like not fair to. I mean, we play this guy in midfield. We play this guy as a left wing, right wing, in the middle, and stuff like that. I mean, we wouldn't put I don't know, like you don't put Nunez in midfield and it was like, he looks a little lost, and then like hold that out Nunez. It's just because he's all over the place. I think we've kind of used and abused his capabilities or abilities, I guess, if you want to say that.
His versatility.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've done that a little bit, which is probably not fair to him. But yeah, as Ryan was saying earlier, it was a penalty. Let's move on. Nothing we can do about it. But it just kind of, yeah, it still hurts. I have to say, it still does hurt. Dutch players are groomed for total football. I mean, that's the thing. It's just like because you get a little bit from the Gravenberg as well, by the way, like in the same sense. So I don't know what the deal is there, but let's get to some news and headlines and stuff like that. I mean, we're all about giving Premier League news and headlines, as you all know. We do it every morning. Look at the news, go over, and we don't only focus on Liverpool news. We kind of like go above and beyond. We look at like Premier League, even World of Soccer. We've done stuff all over the place. I felt like this was important to share because their new kits just got revealed for next season. We just shared it on social media as well. It looks good to me, right? I like the contrast. I like the sponsor.
I mean, they're going to argue that they're missing the gold badge in the center, but we can throw that on there, or they can throw that on there if they need it.
I blame Puma for this. I'm not taking any responsibility.
Oh, I see our good friend Nick is back. Hey, Nick.
And yes, our good friend Nick is back. And Nick's comment over there is like the least sensical. It's in a little Nick fashion, I guess. But if you consider the mistake in the Forest game, the points over the last two would be the same. And this is where I don't understand, right? If you say the one where the goal came 2 minutes later, that call is the same thing as not giving pretty much a game-winning penalty in the last second. I don't know what to tell you. If you can't differentiate between those two, yikes, is all I gotta say. Um, Dom says late to the party, happy with the draw. I certainly am. I mean, I think we're all on the same page on this at the end of the day, though, right? All joking aside, I think normally, if you gave it to me before the game, and I told you guys that in the pre-match as well, I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take it, we'll move on. But that was partially because of the lineup, the injuries, how many minutes we're going to get out of Mo and stuff like that. Whereas now, having watched the game, leave alone the penalty decision or the lack
Yeah.
thereof, having watched the game, it almost feels more of like 2 points lost.
If in a vacuum you're looking at it through the lens of the second half, yes. I think everything considered with the first half as well. And City, I mean, they hit the post. They had the ball that went off of Foden's. I think it went off of Foden's hand anyway. So even if it had gone in when Keller punched it at him, it would have not been considered a goal. But I think all things considered, I am still really happy with the draw. I think going back to what Kazi said yesterday in the pre-match, had we won and then had we beat Brighton before Arsenal and City played each other and being 7 points ahead of City, psychologically that would have been fantastic. Obviously, we would all be happy with that. But I don't think there's a world where any of us shouldn't be, maybe not happy, but we should at the very least be content with the draw because it's still a point. And I think if, just like you said, if you were asked before the match at all and you had one chance and you were given the choice, will you take a draw? 99 out of 100 times you're probably saying yes in that moment before knowing and seeing the lineups come out, right? Like we looked at it going, fuck, okay, if we get anything out of this, it's going to be great. And we did get something out of it. And now it's sort of like, I wish we would have gotten more, but it's still okay.
So before we move on to a couple of other headlines, let me ask you this, though. Are we over projecting? Because I'm almost looking at that game yesterday. And I'm saying, same thing with the Forest game. I had the same feeling in the Forest game once we started putting in some of like our top starters that were coming back from injury and stuff. Are we going to play ridiculous soccer moving forward, knowing these guys are back? Or are we over projecting? We're kind of playing ridiculous soccer right now because we have some guys putting over the top efforts. Perhaps maybe because they're not regulars. They might not have the quality, like, max like the other ones, but the effort they put in, the focus they put in is so high that we are maybe like you look at those two lineups, you might even say we're like slightly overachieving, right? Like by not having some of your like stars not playing, some of them just recently back and stuff like that. I mean, is it fair or logical to be extremely optimistic, or is you could get a totally different team come back after the international break?
You absolutely could. I think the emotion of yesterday's game, the crowd being as loud as it was. Anfield hasn't been as loud like that since we were in the Champions League, honestly, I feel. Or maybe, the first game after Klopp announced that he was leaving. The atmosphere was incredible. I think the players really, really latched onto that. And especially the likes of like Endo and Elliott, and then they were great, man. But I think the tough thing is knowing when players come back, it's not a video game where just all of a sudden you've got the best players come back and they're absolutely fine and everything's clicking, right? I think given the emotion of yesterday, the worst thing that I can foresee is having a deflation against Brighton, like coming off such a high and then hitting a low against a team like, not to say Brighton are a bad club because they're not. But if you lose some points there, all of a sudden the mood is completely gone. It's one of those, like, I think was it last year? We beat City 1-0 and then we lost to Forest or someone away. And it was just, or it was Leeds or something like that.
Leeds and then Forest back to back.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one was where.
And it was just like, well, then what was it all for? So I think that's going to be the toughest thing coming back from the international break is making sure that it wasn't for nothing, if you will.
Yeah, and this is, speaking of Nick, there he is. We were just talking about him. So I agree to this. And who does this go on? Because, playing to the level of our opponents, it does happen regularly. And that's exactly what you're saying, I think, is, we get. But is everybody to blame for this? Because I think Anfield is totally different too when City comes, and it might be different when Brighton comes.
Yeah, yeah, they are, and you can hear it. I mean, obviously, we're not there at the stadium, and we're not hearing as much through the TV broadcast, but it just you get a sense that it is just isn't the same. And I don't know if it's down to the players. In my very limited playing experience of the very lowest of levels, I know that there are moments, especially in like adult men's basketball leagues right now. If we know that we're playing a team that's 1-7 in the standings, we're
Yes.
gonna be like, yeah, yeah, whatever. We're gonna win this one, fine, no big deal. But versus if we're playing a team that is ahead of us or right in the same level, then we take it more seriously. So even at my level, I feel that. So I can only imagine at the professional level that there could be similar feelings because everyone that gets to that point, I've said this before, anyone who gets to this point of playing into the Premier League, like these guys are competitive. These guys want to win every single game. And so if you're playing the likes of Forest or Luton or Sheffield, doesn't matter. These guys are still competitive. They don't want to lose. So they're going to play their hearts out regardless. So the fact that you can't overlook that, yeah, you might have more talent, but if you don't want it more, sometimes it doesn't go your way.
Yeah, it does sound cliche, but there is something to that, right? I mean, there is obviously a gap in talents between, I don't know, let's say like you're playing Burnley or somebody. So there's a certain level of like obviously a clear, level of talents between the Liverpool squad and the Burnley squad. But I mean, heck, look at the freaking like Chelsea game, for example. So there's like talents, but then there's not only effort, probably just saying effort is not fair, but I think effort's combination of effort and focus. So if one team has the effort and focus combination, it's almost like if you were playing a video game, like we were just doing our recording yesterday for the game, where you can get like bonuses in a certain time. It's almost like, you get like a 50%, 20% increase because of overall your levels, because of your focus and efforts. And that sometimes closes the gap. I agree with what Nick is saying. There are times, and kind of like what you're saying, you almost go out to the game, and yeah, I mean, I think pretty much anybody who has played any kind of team sports knows, and probably has been a situation, unless you had a lot more disciplined teams than I played in. But you go out there, yes, you're playing like the dead last guy in the league or whatever, or the team that you beat 2-0 last week beat these guys 6-0 or something like that. You go out there thinking, this okay, we're just going out there. I mean, you still have your focus. You're not like going out there like, juggling, but you still kind of like have that. And then the game starts and you're like, oh shit, these guys are not that bad. So we're gonna have to sort ourselves out. That's a bit easier to do, I think, at our low levels than obviously in the pro levels, to be able to grow that back. And I think that's why there is something to be said about. I know, like everybody goes around wearing this badge of, coming back from points. Like most points gained from like being down and stuff.
I'd
I don't know.
rather
Something I want to go on top of the mountain and scream constantly, because why the hell are you always down first?
I'd rather have the badge of least points given up when ahead.
Yeah.
I'd rather be on that mountain than looking over at the other mountain where you're like physically still trying to get up every single time. And yeah, you get back up to the mountain, but then someone pushes you down every single time. Whereas on the other side of the mountain, you're just watching him going, I don't know why you're struggling so much. You just stay up top and you don't leave. It's not that bad.
Yeah, does clubs still use the sports psychologist these days? I mean, I know, especially the pro teams have them, but it's not even like, this is more. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody has to take some of the blame when that happens, right? You got to give it to the player. You got to give it to Klopp a little bit too. You got to give it to the little fans. I think everybody kind of like puts their guard down, if you will, when you don't play a team that's at like a high level that you get up for. And that's probably like the biggest fear. We know. I mean, like Nick said earlier, like we kind of know we're going to be up for this game. We knew that yesterday. Even with that lineup, we kind of knew we were going to be up for that game. Whereas, you almost, at least I always have the fear when we face, I don't know, like a Forest or something like that on a Saturday morning, our time. It's just like, let's hope we would get that should not be a thing where we worry about. I would never worry about, I don't care if the game is at the early game, the late game, Monday game, whatever. I would never worry about our team being up playing against City or Arsenal or like United or something like that. But yeah, it's probably not a great quality that we do not. Nick says we're less predictable. Teams can target trends. Yes, I do. That's what I mean, though. I think it's kind of goes into, I don't know how to approach that, because then if you have Trent, I think. What do you think about this? Like having Mo and Trent over there obviously would be a bonus, but I know what Nick
Yes.
is saying, where it makes it less predictable because you can't. I almost feel like that's one thing that we have done to ourselves, trying to make Trent this right back playing a number 10 next to the number 6 stupidity, and forcing the ball always there, where it feels more now like whoever is open and the ball moves a lot more and everybody almost gets a fair crack at it.
Yeah, I mean the ball movement itself is probably better because you have the opportunity. It's not doesn't feel so forced because it has to come from one spot. I think there's a chance to playing devil's advocate. Like if our opposition doesn't necessarily know how we're lining up, it doesn't always benefit us because we've seen the disjointedness on our side too when we have certain pieces playing together that don't necessarily work. So yes, you can. I think there's truth to both sides. Just same way that I think there's truth to both sides. I think Nick had a comment about 10 goals in 90 plus minutes not being a good statistic. I think, ultimately you still want to win games, even if you're coming back from them. So I think, having the mentality of being able to come back is still a good thing. It's just that you don't necessarily want to put yourself in that position all the time.
Over and over and over again.
Over and over, correct. So, but sometimes we're put in that position because of the lineups that we put out just aren't used to playing with each other. And, yes, the other team doesn't know what we're doing, but sometimes we don't know what we're doing. And usually Darwin doesn't know where he's standing because, if he did, he wouldn't have so many offsides called against him. But,
goddamn, he was kind of nonstop.
What was that stat? I think Cersei put it in the Discord. He was offside 5 times in the first half, and Holland's been called offside once in the Premier League all season.
Yes, that's crazy. I mean, I know but they both kind of play off the shoulder a little bit. It's not like Holland doesn't do that. I know, they don't get to counter as much and stuff like that. Here's the thing, though. While we say about, let's seriously talk about Nunez being kind of dumb. He's dumb. There's no arguing that anymore. He's a big dumb dog chasing a ball.
I think that's a little harsh. I think it's a little harsh.
Tad harsh.
I mean, I've definitely complained about Nunez staying on side the last, 18 months probably on here, really. So I can definitely, I sense the frustration. I think especially first half yesterday was especially rough, but I think that's a little harsh.
I agree with this, and this is like a rare morning. So we started with trashing Nick's take on the jersey, but then now I'm agreeing way too much with Nick this morning. So I need stronger coffee or something. But
I feel like if we were able to have just a conversation with Nick like this, things would go much easier. I think sometimes things get lost in text, right? And I don't think that's fair to everyone. I think it would be a great medium to have to actually share conversations with.
Because I agree with this. I said it yesterday too. This is the kind of game that Jota comes in and scores the winner, and then you make it another goal, and you win that game easily. That's like the kind of thing. I am torn on this. I really am. I mean, you get quality, you get dumb.
You get quality, you get fucking.
What?
You said you get quality and then you get fucking as it comes up on the screen.
Yeah, by the time I clicked on that, it moved. Sorry. Here's what I was trying to do. But yeah, by the time I clicked on it, another comment popped in. But yeah, I am torn on it, man. You can't blame the efforts. There's definitely some quality in there. You can't deny that. But there is some, I don't know if it's dumb or if it's just over enthusiasm or trying too hard. I am constantly like lost on that, and it almost like changes every game. You're like, see, and then you're like, what are you doing? I just can't decide which one is which. I mean, and I understand. Here's another thing: like he has a second, the number of shots thing. I don't know if that's a good stat either. Going back to like the goal stats or coming back from behind stat, because cranking up shots. I mean, any forward, if they really wanted to. If you told Gakpo, dude, crank as many shots as you can. I mean, any forward can like create some space for themselves and have a whip at it and see what happens. I mean, he gets into the situations in that sense. I do understand that. I just don't know what we have so far. And Dom says on a massive positive, we're all going to have Alex Scott soon for the run in. And that's the thing. Going back to what Nick was saying earlier, though, that's what I want to ask you as well. Before we get to this, we can't get to this headline, but I
That's fine.
almost feel like these injuries have helped that. What you were talking about earlier in terms of like we played the same lineup over and over and over again, right? Because Klopp would run him into the ground, and then you would have a League Cup game or something like that, and we would rotate, and suddenly there'd be like 7 guys, and it looked like. And now people are talking about these youth guys. They play the same system forever. Well, you know what? It didn't freaking matter. We would go out to a League Cup game. There would be like 6, 7 guys on the floor, like on the pitch. There was like, like 2, 3 young guys. Milner's out there, like, like holding their hand, taking them around the pitch and stuff. And it looked disjointed, like they never played together. I almost feel like this year, because of injuries, we've had to move so many different parts and people have played all over the place and stuff. It almost has helped in that sense where you don't get the disconnect that you used to because it almost seems like the entire squad is more involved, maybe more than what we would like in some ways because of the injuries.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it's going to be really telling when everyone comes back, and we see the teams that get chosen, because in certain cases, just because a player's coming back from injury doesn't necessarily give them the green light to be thrown back into the 11. Obviously Klopp is still going to choose what he feels is best at that time. Not to say that the likes of Mo is not going to get in, or the likes of Allison. I know Serzi has asked the question about, does Allison get back in the team over Keller? Yes, I don't think that needs to be a question. I mean, he's the best keeper in the world. I understand Keller is doing a great job, but there's a reason that Allison continuously starts over Keller. And one of them is because he's just a better keeper overall. Not to say Keller is bad. We've never said that Keller is necessarily bad, right? I think he's the best number 2 option to have.
I think he's been the most pleasant surprise, really. There's so many of them.
I was gonna say there's many of them. Yeah, I think, but definitely, yeah, it's great to have, because if it was Adrian in there, who knows how those games would have gone. So it's nice to see that. But yeah, I'm a little bit more reserved than some in the sense of being excited for everyone coming back, because there's no guarantee that everything's going to work even better now that everyone's back. Yes, on paper, theoretically, everything should be better, but that games are played on the pitch; they're not played on the paper. So I don't know. I'm a bit more reserved in that sense, even though I should be excited.
I disagree with this, that Keller is better with his feet than Allison.
Yeah, I mean, I think Allison has had a couple, a couple rough passes that have led to goals. I think we remember that and latch onto that more. But overall, I think Allison, outlet at least, especially booting the ball at the top, I think he's much better and much more accurate.
I think one difference is, Allison's, perhaps you can blame him for being overconfident, right? Whereas Keller is going to take less risks. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed with Keller a lot more, and I mean, this could be by design, and that's what he's asked to do as well. But while, like, the way we play, we move the ball around, and you want Ellison to ping that ball to, like, the left wing to Robertson or right wing or whatever. Keller has been more almost like chipping it towards middle for Nunez to bring it down. That could be by design. That's what he's asked to do. But you don't see Keller as much pinging a ball to a wide open Robertson by the sideline or anything like that. I disagree that they're playing. And we were talking about this yesterday. Actually, that's a good question to ask you as well, because I was asked this question yesterday in the post-match. Mecca asked me, like, all these guys that are coming back that are currently out right now, which one excites me the most, or who I want back the most? And I think Jota is the furthest one back. I don't even think we're getting Jota back after the international break. He's the only one I think not coming back. Probably. But I think I would want Jota back the most in this final run-in, because I almost feel like, in a weird kind of way, it's not Trent not being there, kind of like what Nick was saying earlier. I hope we learn our lesson, so when he comes back, he can be even more, like, bring the quality even further. But I feel like it has somehow improved us in some senses, defensively for one, and I think we've got a more creative attacking wise. But who is the one guy that you want to come back? If you could have a magic wand, and he's in there,
throw him right back in. I think maybe Curtis Jones only for the fact, and I understand that having Endo, Mac, and Soboslai could be the best midfield, but I think having Jones back gives you the option for Jones, Endo, and Mac, and I think that together is also something that I would love to see. It's just a matter of, I think, game to game, because I think Soboslai can be so great, but when he disappears, he really feels like he's gone off the pitch, right? He had the very beginning of the year where everyone was so big on him, and absolutely loving that he came here. He had a couple of goals from outside of the box, wherever that was. And then for the next like 2.5 months, he was just completely gone, but everyone was still clamoring for Soboslai, and then he's back, and it just doesn't feel like he's all there or fit in quite yet. So I think Jones for me would be fun, but ultimately, like anyone coming back would be great. Trent would be great having back. Jota would be great. Like I think we were talking about, if Jota has those Diaz chances, maybe it's 3-1, right? And most likely it's 3-1, given how clinical of a finisher Jota is. So, but it's we can't play the world of what ifs. What happened, and we move on and see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I agree, like in the comments, like Trent gets a lot of shots due to his creativity and what he can bring. I do agree to that. But honestly, I don't know if it helps us yesterday. I did jinx it, by the way. I was talking about not seeing that diagonal for a long time since Bradley started playing right back, but they were constantly lobbing that ball yesterday. I was like, damn it, I jinxed it. They're playing that diagonal against us again. But at least it wasn't as effective. So there's also that. So real quick, before we move on, we'll get to this headline, hopefully, eventually. But
we don't need to.
The Patreon we've talked about before. If you have not joined, you can see that there's thanks to Gordo, we call it the cheap Gordo package, or Gordo, what likes to call it the Gordon's cheap ass package, at the $1 a month subscription, where you do still get access to a lot of the content, where at least you'll get a taste of all the other contents we do. But like I said, we just recorded some gaming content with Mateusz yesterday. There's an interview coming to be published later on this week. Mecca is actually editing that today. And then tomorrow, actually, we're actually officially recording our first An Irishman, a Scouse, and a Turk episode. So that should be a blast or a catastrophe of some sort. But if you have not joined already, head on over there. I probably should put a link just in case, and then post that link right there. Yeah, if you would like to join, I mean, if nothing else, you can also do like a free membership as well, by the way. It doesn't have to be a paid one. At least you get updates on the content that's coming out. But great way to support the site as well, get some extra free content and all that good stuff. So head on over there and check that out as well. This is the news I was trying to get to, because this came out last week. Honestly, it was here, there. It feels like there's a lot more to it now. I did not want to go all over it last week, but everybody says like it's going to come out this week. I figured, if anything, it would be over the international break and not this week before we play European game and play United in the FA Cup and stuff. But
yeah, there's still 2 more games this week. I feel like we started talking about the international break, but there are still 2 more matches to play.
Yeah, I don't see the Thursday one as much of a game. I think it'll just be like, hey,
you hope so. You hope it's not much of a game.
Come on.
I don't know, man. Like, again, we just talked about it. Playing down the competition. Like, if you go out thinking,
not that down.
I understand they're 5-1 up, and getting 4 goals at Anfield is a very difficult task. But let's not just brush over it so easily.
No, I'm rushing over. I am rushing over. I mean, I feel like this is a game you can rotate. You can put all the kids out there. You can put whoever. I mean,
yeah,
Van Dijk should be nowhere near that. And yeah, like Sparta, I mean, I guess you do not want to lose at Anfield to a team just because you put this disjointed team out there. But I think you can, I put Adrian in goal. I'm serious. I really don't care. But I would just put, I mean, Nick says we can both be in the. I mean, I don't know about that.
Careful what you ask for, man. That's not my life anymore.
That might be taking it to the extreme. Even Sparta might be like, we have a shot here. But I mean, he's probably right. We can probably be out there with another proper 9. You might cost us a couple of goals here and there, but we're not gonna. I mean, I don't see them winning by 4, regardless of who we throw
I
out.
know. I mean, it's a bit of a joke, but it's still one of those things. I think maybe just psychologically, not getting beat up by Sparta at Anfield, then going into a game against United. I think just mentally, it's just where I would say to be a bit careful, because you don't want to just get outplayed, right? You might not lose 4-0, but if it's like a 1-1, you get outplayed pretty badly at Anfield. No matter who's out there going into the next match, it might not be a great feeling, but they probably don't care because they see it as a whatever game. So I think that's the only place I'd be coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean, Dom says like go a half strong. I almost say don't go a half strong just because rest who you can. I mean, you're still gonna have like Gakpo and stuff out there probably. I mean, there's only so many players you can use. But because I think if you go all youth, and we all know, everybody in the world knows, hey, we're going out there because we have to. Like somebody has to go in to work. Why don't you guys go in, kind of a thing? And and you, even if you freaking lose at home or whatever, we were like, whatever, like we just showed up, we weren't even there. You don't want to go like half strong and like get a bad result, because that can affect your momentum. I think it's almost like you don't even count it as a game, and then you go against United full strength is what I would be after as well. City versus Arsenal. Carragher says Arsenal win is best for us. Has Carragher seen the table? Is my question.
That would be the
I don't
worst.
think there's any debating that.
That would be the worst thing. No, I think at this point, I think a City win would be best. I don't even.
Yes.
I'm away from the draw now. I think if we had beaten City, it's a different story. The draw's fine, but I think now City win would be the best, because then it hurts the goal differential for Arsenal and it hurts points, obviously. And that's where I'm at, is that a City win is going to be the best result for us. Because then at this point, you just have to match City then till the end of the year. But if Arsenal beats City, you have to catch up to Arsenal. Hey, no one wants that.
Nobody wants that. Okay. Let's go back to this. I'm still going with a draw. I'll take a draw.
I mean, I'll take it. Well, no, it's not what you'll take. It's what you think is the best result moving forward. And I
still think a draw is the best result.
Fine, that's fair.
You don't think? I mean, because that puts you 3 points with City and 2 points with Arsenal.
Why are you doing
this? So now City is semi out of the picture. And
I don't know. I feel like understanding that City is only 1 point behind us as opposed to 3 points behind us could be a mental thing too. Like, hey, I mean, they're just a point behind. You have to win every game.
Yes.
Whereas, they're 3 points behind. We could theoretically lose a game and be ahead on goal differential kind of deal. Like, you don't want to be in that position. So I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. I'm just sitting here in a chair on a Monday. What do I know? You just asked me to come here every Monday. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't even know why I asked that. Nick, okay, this is way too much agreeing with Nick in one morning. Gonna go overdose. But I was saying this actually yesterday. Spurs and Villa, I think, are the two teams that's gonna kind of determine the title winner. Yeah. This is gonna be one of those years. It's not going to be what they do against each other, because they're going to rampage otherwise. But I think those teams, the Spurs game at home is a huge advantage, I think, because I know there's going to be a lot of like vengeance coming out of that game. I just hope it's controlled vengeance. That's probably my only concern with that game, to be honest with you. Because if it is controlled vengeance, and if we play like how we played against City, I think, that's our game. And yes, especially for Arsenal, because that whole London thing takes a different take as well. I don't know. I like going away to City, I guess, is just as difficult. But
City has to go to
London, right?
Yeah. So and City playing at Tottenham historically in the last several years has not been great for them. So that is it's definitely a big fixture. I think the Villa fixture for us is probably the most difficult one that I can see.
Did Tottenham crush him yesterday?
Yes, yeah,
right? Villa,
yeah.
But that's the thing with Villa. I think you can really have him on the counter. So it does concern me. I honestly was really worried about how like when Villa came to Anfield, and that turned out to be one of the easiest fixtures because we got that early goal. I think that was the one with the Szoboszlai goal from the corner kick, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like not expected, at least by me. I thought that was going to be a really tough fixture. But I think, we can play how we play City. I meant in terms of aggression and focus, like what we were talking about earlier, like really being up for it. I think that's gonna be a determining. McGinn was sent off. I mean, yeah, he should have, but I mean, that was like the game was already.
I thought it was like 2-0 when he got the red. No, I don't. Do I remember that
Yes,
right?
it was already 2-0 when he
Yeah.
went out. And to be fair, they got the third and fourth, looks like, after the 90th. I didn't watch it. I was kind of on a diet until our game started over here. But
Villa.
okay, like, before we go, we got to talk about this. I keep putting this on there, but we just keep. Happy with this? Unhappy?
It's because we're not meant to talk about it yet. That's the
I
only
guess
reason.
it's not official yet. Yeah. So, but I
Um,
mean, it's becoming more and more talked about
yeah.
and more likely now. I didn't want to even like bring it up last week, to be honest with you, in the morning shows. But I almost feel like some people are over the top happy with this, like Mbappe is coming and bringing his three friends, kind of a thing. Not that I want Mbappe over here. I'm just saying, like the news.
Yeah. The only thing I'm happy about is that it would just relieve any potential anxiety potentially of where the club's structure is, because we know of what a massive importance Edwards played in the recruitment and in the squad, the 1.0 version, so to speak. So I think from that point of view, it just relieves some of the nervousness of what the plan is. But even with them coming on, with Edwards and Hughes coming on, and both of them being good at what they do, it still doesn't answer the question of who the manager is going to be, but it just allows us to sort of understand that even whoever the manager is to bring in, whoever the manager will be coming in, there is a sense of security knowing that there are these two that could potentially, with that appointment, potentially help and smooth the transition over, as opposed to just doing a completely like brand new retransformation of everything kind of deal.
Yeah, Don says the appointment of these two is a big bearing on the new manager. Having a director of football operations and place managers is surely. I mean, I agree. I think it helps. I mean, at least it helps my freaking mindset and peace of mind knowing, when you lose somebody like Klopp, no manager is going to replace Klopp. But if you're able to replace all the hats he's wearing with quality people wearing those hats individually, I think you're in good shape. I mean, you look at a team like United, you look at Chelsea and stuff like that. That's the freaking problem. Is
That's the worry.
yeah, you need football people in the right places. It's not the money you're spending. If it's not spent wisely in with like a football wisely, I should say, then you can see how it can like fall apart. So I don't know what it means for the long run. I don't know what it means for like the manager as well. But knowing that these two guys, Edwards more than anything else, obviously due to our experience, but knowing that these two guys are making some of the bigger decisions would make me feel a bit more comfortable in terms of what we're doing with what we have. At the same time, this also does mean like you might get some unpopular decisions being made money wise.
Yeah, and I don't think this isn't something that we should be celebrating like we just won a cup. Like we, excuse me. It's great to have these guys come in, but it's not something that, like you're saying, everyone is so overly the top happy. Like we don't know what the future still holds with all of this in place. And there could be a few people right now who are so happy, and then it turns out that oh yeah, Edwards doesn't want to give Van Dijk a longer contract or whatever the case might be, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, what the fuck, get him out of here, blah blah blah.
And I think that's going to be a lot of issue. Obviously, we have Mo, Van Dijk, and Trent. Those are probably the three contracts that will be the one talked the most, right? Especially in summer.
Do you?
And
this summer, yeah. I was gonna say, but you could potentially
not do anything.
Put Allison in there too in that conversation.
See yeah, I understand in terms of signing an extension. I just feel the bigger questions will probably be, especially with Edwards coming more than anything else, will probably be Van Dijk and Mo. Because we know how he views age and how he calculates that and stuff like that. But at the same time, he's smart enough to know like the bigger picture. That's what I mean. Like having football people, I'm kind of happy that these are the guys that are going to be official, and these are the guys we get. I'm pretty happy with that. Knowing the alternatives, or maybe more likely not knowing the alternatives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the evil you know is better than the evil you don't, right? I mean, I'm not saying these guys are awful people, but it's, in the sense, it's sometimes it's just more comforting knowing what you had before.
Yeah, that's fair. Nick says, my work here is done. Liberal agreement on my takes has been up. Yes, it has been. This is crazy. But it almost sounds like you've been watching us and you're kind of repeating what we've been saying. So
I'll keep saying it, man. As long as it's always easy, if we just had conversation face to face about, and this goes for anything in the world, you just have a civil conversation face to face. A lot of things, you'd be surprised that we could have an actual civil conversation.
You never know, yeah. No, I mean, we've agreed with Nick stuff in the past, but then we've kind of like disagreed. But at least it's fun to kind of like go back and forth with.
You can't always agree on everything. That's boring.
Yeah, as opposed to like some people who are just painful to discuss things.
Reza, sorry. What was that? Is that a sign to leave? No, not yet.
I will look to sign LSI. See, I mean, this is one thing, for example, knowing Edwards, I don't think he signs a second goalkeeper to a long-term contract for big money, and you would think Kelleher would.
He would,
but I can see him getting 60 for Kelleher or something crazy.
That I would see that more than extending Keller, unless Allison is the one that gets the boot for whatever reason.
Yes.
That's the only world
and
that
I am not big on that at all. How old is Allison?
31, 32?
31.
Yeah. So as a keeper, right?
Yeah, but at least another good 5 years.
Plenty of years left, yeah.
Is his injury record a concern? For a long-term contract, and not because you would still have to have reliable two with Ellison, it feels like.
Yeah, and I mean, as you get older, the injury concerns grow more and more. Unless your name is LeBron James and you just have no clue what an injury is, which is just an alien that's been brought to Earth.
He was out the other day, but he was wearing the Liverpool thing.
He was. It was cool. It was great. Yeah, it's a bit of a concern, and so that's why I think I posed the question in the pre-match. I think it wasn't this past one, but it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Something about the likes of Kelleher with his age and long term. Is it an actual discussion to have? Do you keep him over Allison? And I know that one of the points was going back to the injury concerns, but it's not like Keller has been injury free either. He's had some knocks as well. So I think unless it gets to be something really serious, I think extending Allison or having an Allison for the next 4 or 5 years is what we're gonna see, unless he wants to move elsewhere. I think that's the only way he leaves, is if he wants to move elsewhere.
I just don't know if Kelleher would want to keep this role, because I'm sure
he's not going to want to.
No, he wouldn't normally be playing right now. So I don't know if he wants to keep this role forever, knowing as long as they're both fit, Allison is going to be the one that's playing. And I do not want an Arsenal situation, which how sweet would that have been if Ramsdale cost them the season over there after all that drama. I would have almost thought like he did it intentionally or something. But yeah, I mean, I just don't want, that's a position that I don't want competition in. I think it's one of the worst things for a club is competition at the goalkeeper position. You should know who your number one is.
But Arteta says that it just makes them work harder and against each other to make them better.
Yeah, and yeah, Ramsdale has been really working hard, I could tell. But Keller gets into top.
Okay, here's the problem with some things here. And this is not a Liverpool thing. This is an every fan of every team thing, is that we inflate the value of our players because we like them so much. Kelleher would not start for City, would not start for Villa, would not start for Arsenal, United, Spurs. Okay. Well, maybe, but they're not top four. So that's I apologize. I apologize for that. They're not top four. So I think Kelleher gets it. I think he starts for about 8 to 10 teams in the Premier League. But I think there's a good argument that he does not. There's a good half of the league he doesn't get the clear choice number one in.
I agree. Chelsea and Spurs, maybe. Chelsea, maybe. I don't know about Spurs. They got that kid who's doing well for them. He was start for 10 teams. I'll go with that. I don't think. I mean, we're really freaking running. I see. Sergi can really ride the wind, man. He has won us points, but uh, no,
He's
no,
not better than Raya.
no. Yeah, I think this goes back to okay, a month. If we really think Keller would play for like everybody in the world except us because we have Ellison, then why the hell was everybody freaking out when Ellison got injured?
Yeah. And we
So-
wouldn't have been saying this a month and a half ago. There wouldn't be people saying, "Oh, you could start for any team in the world." Like, no, that's not it.
Yeah, I don't think he's better than Raya. And then again, I haven't probably seen enough of Raya to be fair. But I mean, here's the thing: like experience wise and stuff like that, I would probably go with Raya if I had a choice between the two of them starting or something like that. But then again, depends on the system and all that. But I still think, like, yeah, we are overvaluing him. Having seen, hey, it has been a ridiculous run, and he's like in really great form.
And we love him. Like,
And maybe he did need a
great.
run of games, if you will, as a goalkeeper to do that. He has won us solid points. He has kept us in games, some big games as well. So yeah, there's no discredit in that, but it is still a very, very small sample size of what we're looking at. I wouldn't have Raya over Keller as our backup.
Well, neither would I, because you're paying too much money for a backup then.
Yeah, that's that's fair. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. Long term, probably not. No, right? But I don't know. That means like if we're starting a team today, which one are you starting with? That'd be a debate.
That's a different question. Yeah, if we're starting from scratch right now and we're building, yeah, I would consider Kelleher over Raya. But right now, where we're at, Raya is a better keeper than Kelleher.
Can't believe the disrespect for Keller. He says, I mean,
we like him.
Keller, we're just looking at a really, really small sample size.
Yeah.
And I think, hey, I've been extremely pleasantly surprised because I was one of those people freaking out when we heard Ellison is going to go out because there have been so many games that Ellison has kept us in it. But amazingly, Keller has been able to do the same. And I did not really expect that. Polish Prince also said KD was better than Stevie G. Reckless Mondays.
I said,
wait, what was this?
I said he's part of the conversation to be one of the best midfielders in Premier League history, and now everything has just been blown up out of proportion. Good old social media at work.
I'm putting Endo into that conversation. Reckless Mondays.
That I will stand behind. Endo better than Stevie G.
Yeah, that's basically like saying Endo might be better than Stevie G because we have like a small sampling size where he's been really, really good. I think we're just kind of like running with it. But hey, I think it would be Ellison is nowhere near being back from what I understand. I don't think he's back. Like he's one of those players back after the international break. So like, which is like what, 2-3 weeks by the time they come back. Cause obviously we still have
April.
games before them, but,
yeah.
So, but if we continue this run and Keller continuously keeps us in games, and like JMX says, I mean, yeah, I don't think he would want, especially after this season.
Yeah,
we kind of did this a bit back. By the way, okay, wait. How Sergi? Where is Sergi? Get him back in here. He was in ridiculous form. And he was really good. And we were having this exact conversation that J-Mag is talking about in terms of him. Like, do we get 25 for him in the offseason? Do we get 30 for him in the offseason? Then he played, and he didn't play a lot, obviously. But when he played, he was pretty horrific. And at that time, a lot of us said, damn it, we should have cashed him on and when we could.
Yep.
This is probably maybe mid-season last season.
Yep.
How quickly we forget. On that note, I rest my case, Your Honor. So it is Monday. Who's getting groomed in the Polish Prince?
The dog today.
The dog. How often does this dog get groomed? This dog gets definitely more groomed than I do, but that's not saying a lot. Yeah.
Every 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly has more medals than ever. I mean, not Newcastle though, does he? Wait, I mean, I guess in the recent years. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from that guy. But okay, that's what I mean. Like
this one, I mean, this would be interesting just for the lore of him being Irish. I think that would be a pretty cool thing to see him start in Dublin. But if Allison's fit, he's playing.
Yeah, see, I don't know, because do we do the what we did, like you brought us here, kind of an ordeal? Um, yeah, it really depends. Some people were trying to sell Jones. I hate at the time, I was one of them, to be honest with you. But
It's
you can't
oh
say it's the same player that's we had 2 years ago who was
yeah.
trying to do like we were doing in our gaming yesterday, a rainbow feint over everybody he sees in front of him.
Here's the thing, you guys. It is perfectly acceptable to have an opinion and then to have that opinion change given other evidence or given other
No, you
pieces that
stick
you're.
with what you know.
I think that's the most annoying thing out of anything on social media. And this is not a Cersei like specifically. Like there's nothing, no malice towards your comment at all because I love you. You're great. I think in the general sense is that people are so stricken with the fact that you can't change your opinion and they hold on to something from years ago that someone said and they can't get over it. And I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but it's the fact that like
Cersei? No.
no, but it's just so annoying that we can't have the moment to be like, yeah, I understand I said that, but I can also understand, given this new evidence, given what I've seen, that my opinion has changed, and I am here now. Like this, it's okay to do that.
I mean, this is hard content to compete on when Price Right retire. Dom is
That's
living
why we
like
get.
picture perfect retirement life.
That's why we have to keep it at an hour because at 10 o'clock, Price is Right is on, and we're fucked. We lose everything.
All the audience just leaves. It's like, and yeah, when
Click.
you get beat to Prices Right, maybe we should call it a day anyway. I'll be back tonight for more Prices Right or Deal or No Deal. Tonight's at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Um, with the boys. Sure, we'll talk about a game. We'll talk about this whole Edwards thing, and we'll probably give our takes on. I'll ask him some of these things that came up. Actually, I mean, we'll definitely talk about some of the performances yesterday and stuff like that. But so happy grooming day to the dog. What's the dog's name? I mean, we call Stitch and Leo constantly. I feel
Blue.
bad calling your dog the
The
dog.
dog. Well, she is the dog. Blue. Her name is Blue.
Blue. Okay, Blue's grooming day. So does he enjoy the grooming?
I sometimes have to pick her up to get her into the building, and sometimes I don't have to. So it's 50-50. Depends on the day.
I'm taking that as he doesn't enjoy half the time. He doesn't realize where he's going. It's like, wait, what? This is the groomer? God damn it! Like, yeah, because Leo especially, Stitch loves car rides. Like I'll go to the post office, FedEx or whatever. He'll hop on. We just go. He sticks his head out. Leo, he has a lot of like abandonment issues when we first got him, like the way we got him and stuff like that. And then I think the few times we got to take him more to car rides just over to the park, like around the block or something like that. So he doesn't understand that. Because now when he gets in the car, he's either going to the vet, which is not a pleasant experience, or he's taking like a 17-hour ride to Outer Banks. So he's like, nothing good can come out of this when the car door opens. So
I've seen this show before. I'm not gonna get tricked.
Yeah, when Stitch jumps in, he's like, dude, I wouldn't.
What are you doing?
But hey, thanks everybody as always. Like I say, definitely check out Patreon and support us if you can there. Otherwise, like and subscribe and hit all those buttons down there, except the one that says thumbs down. Don't go anywhere near that. But thanks as always, and we'll see you guys tonight. Take care.